other key I'd say, you have to have knowledge. You gotta know what you're doing. That means you go to clinics, you do what you're doing, talking to other coaches, you look at a lot of videotapes, you keep good records. And sometimes you have to know what not to do as well. When you keep records, you'll go back and look. Things that went well, you can see why. Things someone got hurt or things didn't go well, they didn't peak well, you'll also be able to go back and say, look.
Can you give an example?
Well, one of the things, with the knowledge, when I first went to junior high, I thought, I know a lot about track. We're going to be great. But then I found out there's a lot more to it. You got to wear a lot of hats. But the knowledge, I got a book. I got several books. And I just keep track. Every day, I'd write stuff down. And then you got to go back and review it. Just go back over and over and over and over. The knowledge will come. And things will change. Things that I did in, early or mid-70s, totally different now. So you got to adapt. That's one of the things that we were talking about, to the way things are. Another one, obviously, is discipline. Lou Holtz said, it's not what you do to somebody, it's what you do for somebody. And I believe that. In my experience, I've had a lot of kids come back and say, hey, I really appreciate it. I'm glad you did that to me. I hated it at the time, but, it made a difference. And I always kind of looked at it, it's kind of like holding a bird. You squeeze it too tight, too much discipline, and you crush it. Too little, it flies away. So, it got to be just right. I'm not a big rules guy.
That was just a question that I was going to have about discipline. Do you have a lot of rules when it comes to discipline?
I don't, because I have students, whether it be back at the Laurel Junior High and Eleanor Roosevelt High School, all the way up through, the colleges, a lot of different backgrounds. So, but I do, the ones I did have, reinforced. And, as an example, be on time. I'm a stickler for being on time. If practice starts at 3 o'clock, I expect you there at 10 of. I'm proud to say in 45 years, 43 years, 40, however many years, I've never been late for a practice. I've never been late for a practice or a meet. And that's just, being organized and just making it a priority. So be on time. That would be rule number one, So all of my athletes knew that. Tell the truth. They screw up. There's going to be screw ups. That's why a little coaching cue, coach with one eye and one ear. You don't want to know all the problems, because you would have no one on your team if you're too much of a disciplinarian. If I ask you something, you do something, tell me. Don't lie, because it's always the cover-up that makes it worse. Just say, hey, yep, I did this, and so. Another rule that we had is come to practice with a purpose. Don't just show up like, okay, what are we doing? No, I want you to be thinking about practice and what you're going to do. Sometimes, we'd give the workouts. Some kids liked that. They knew what the workout was going to be. Others didn't. You could still say, hey, I'm going to work staying a little closer to Jimmy or Janie, or I'm going to really work on getting my lead leg down, or whatever, something like that. So you come with a purpose. Don't just show up like, okay, let's work. This is it. And lastly, our big rule was that if you have to think about something, whether it's right or wrong, it's wrong. So don't do it. We had, as a staff, we developed what we called the 4 F's. The first F was, we'll always try to be friendly to our kids. And don't misconstrue what I'm saying with friendly. It doesn't mean soft. Kids, we smile and make, they're part of our family. And we were fair. That would be the second F. The third F was firm. And the fourth F, if things didn't work, was farewell. That's pretty much, what we did with as far as the discipline goes. But those are some of the highlights, and we can expand upon those later. You guys are going to go back, you're going to look at your notes, and you're going to look at the video, and then you're going to have some more questions. You got another question?
Yeah. What's the difference between a good team and a good program?
Okay. A good team, there is a difference. A good team can be just having some good athletes, and then once those good athletes are gone, it falls off. Where a program is it's like the Rothenbergs. It's year after year after year after year after year. They were always in the hunt. They were actually always winning it. Otherwise they were right there if they didn't win it. That's the difference between a good team and a good program. And that's when everybody just buys into it, and year. One of the problems I see, even on a collegiate level now, is coaches get complacent. And that's one of the things. You got to go each year. You got to go as if it's your first year, and you got to have that excitement and enthusiasm. But if you stay somewhere, which would be great, if you can stay 15, 20, 30, 40 years, you've got to keep the enthusiasm. A lot of people just get there and they've kind of retired, or they're satisfied with being good. Because once you win, it's a lot harder to stay there than to win it the first time. I think you take a program, and it's up to you to make it what you want it to be. Don't make all these excuses. Oh, we don't have, like Cleveland State. Well, we only have 4 scholarships or 3 scholarships, whatever you guys have. And I know you're not getting more, and you're competing against the Youngstowns and all the other people would have, 16 or 18. Don't make excuses. You turn the program. You figure out a way, to get it done. and you get better athletes, that's the beginning. Except me, a lot of the places, it's just track and field, or it's just cross country. To me, that's the most important sport in school. I wanted us, our staff, and our kids to have just as much say-so and things that the other sports had. And speaking of discipline, I also remember taking over a program, again, who was last in the conference, and it was on the women's side. And he had one girl there who scored 27 of the 39 points that the team did. So she was the team. But they were still at the bottom. And she didn't exactly want to come to practice. The few rules that we had. Being on time, she'd always show up late if she showed up. And we called her in and we talked to her and said, hey, this is what it has to be. Well, I never have to do that. I just come to the meets. I'm your star. What happened there, she was dismissed. That last F we talked about very well?
Yes.
It's like, hey, you're good, but you're not that good. You're not the team. And once we dismissed her, it's amazing how everybody else rallied around. We won the conference championship that year. You go back and look. We went from last, we won the championship. And it was just a change of attitude. So you have to, they have to know who's in charge. Again, you're friendly and you're helpful and you explain this is what we're going to do and we're going to make you better. But these are things that are required from you too. And one of the things that I thought was very helpful, we always sent a letter home to parents, whether it was even back in junior high all the way through college. We sent a letter and said, hey, here's our expectations.
So how do you go about hiring a successful staff?
So in other words, what am I looking for? An assistant coach?
Yes. Or
what I would say co-worker, rather than assistant, but someone who's interested in kids and someone who has loyalty. I don't really care how much they know the X's and O's, because you can teach them those things. I want someone who's generally interested in the kid. Coaches, if you're really concerned about the kid, then things will fall into place. I think you should have for each event group, let's say you were a hurdler, a very good hurdler. Mm-hmm. You might have different workouts because coaches, many times they go and they have one workout. Let's say they're doing a workout 10 times 400 and you might have a wide range. You might have someone who's really good and they're running it in, let's say 70 seconds. And some of the slower boys or some of the girls might be running 90s. And if you got a minute's rest in between, what happens is that, this kid finishes, he gets his minute rest. The people running 90s, they only get 40 seconds rest. And so when you took the total time of running, they're doing a lot more. They're doing 20 seconds more, so that's 200 more seconds. That's a lot more pounding on the legs. They end up getting hurt. What I would suggest is you might run 10 times 75 seconds or 10 times 80 seconds. And at the end of that time, you go over time, and wherever they are, they stop. And everybody walks back to the starting line. So everyone gets the same amount of rest, and yet they still did the same workout. Girls and girls, they're both running the same workout. And usually the guys are faster. And then the girls are doing a lot more work, and it's just not fair. Mm-hmm. So the only one that develops is your top kid. Which brings up a point. We won several championships we probably should not have, but it's like a chess match. I'm going to take you on the board here and show you something about how you can get extra points. Let's say coaches are creatures of habit. I mean, I could go in and I could pretty much tell this school, here's what they're going to enter the people in. And probably with about a 95% accuracy. So we knew the entries, which is a tremendous advantage to us. I know what everyone else is going to run because, again, creatures of habit. If you have someone really good, let's say, Cody, you're ranked number 1, 2, and 4 in event, let's say, in the 400. And we have some people, in the 800, we're ranked 1, 2, and 3. So we get this, 10 points, 8 points, 6 points, that's 24 points, okay? They got 10, they got 8, and they got 5. So they got 23 points. But this is a star. They can run anything. They can run a 400, they can run a mile. One of the ways I can take this person out of here. I take them out of the event. They're not running the 800. I move them over to here. So now this 2 becomes a 1, and 3 becomes a 2. We get 10 points, we get 8 points. We got 18 instead of 24. But this person comes over here, they win. So I got 10 points here. They now 2nd, 3rd, and 5th. So I got another 10 to add here. And they got 2 less. They got 2nd, that's 8 points. 3rd is 6th, and 5th is 6 is 4. So they got 18. So they got 5 less, and we ended up getting more. So we just made up a whole lot of points on someone. If I know this person can win no matter what event I put them in, I take them and put them in their strength, and they knock the other teams down. So instead of them getting 1st and 2nd and 4th, they now get 2nd, 3rd, and 5th. So they get a lot less points. I'm still getting my 1st, And these two have moved up. Instead of getting the second and third, I'm getting the first and the second. So I just gained. And I do that 2 or 3 times, and we've always been able to pick up at least 25 to 45 points at a meet. And there's also what I consider cheap points. You know, hurdles is one. If you coach, most people don't coach the hurdles, but if you coach the hurdles, take a good sprinter, they're not good enough to score at state, turn them into a hurdler. Field events, you know, you talk about pole vault, discus. Some your state don't have javelin or triple jump, but those are events, if you coach them, no one else does. And you can pick up a lot of, I don't want to say cheap points, but points that you normally wouldn't have. And that's how you win championships.
Another question is the relays, like the 4x1 and the 4x4. Do you do a lot of switching?
Well, yeah, 4x4, that is my baby. And we had a little bit of success at it. And again, that you talk about attitude. My 4x4 teams had attitudes. We would always time the other teams. So I know if you're Baylor or you're UCLA, I got your splits. So in case you missed them, come over and see me. I got your splits. I know what you guys ran. And coaches almost always keep the same people. I don't know, I think we won maybe 5 Division I NCAA 4x4s, and I would venture a guess not a single time did we run the same people in the finals or the same order that we did in trials, because we'd mix it up. Indoor, different, again, strategy, it's a whole nother information. Indoors, you want to get the lead. You control the race. Outdoors, it's different.
Coach, you talked about attitude a good bit. Would you say your athletes were kind of cocky or more confident?
Some people, it was misconstrued that they thought they were cocky, but no, they definitely had confidence. Attitude, like I said, was they expected to win. When they got on the line, here's another little thing, by the way. We always try to tell our athletes, when you go to a meet, I want you to make 3 friends. And usually, you go and handshake, you get to know their names and so forth. But that's before the meet or after the meet. During competition, you have no friends. You are there, it's business. The time card is punched in, right? I don't think we were cocky, but we were confident because we knew we were better prepared. So my kids were prepared. They knew they were at their best. They were peaking for this event. So they had that confidence. But at the same token, I can remember one time we had a meet and it came down toward the end. It was a girl. We were running in a relay and a girl came up on my girl's shoulder and she held her off, to secure the victory, and we won the championship. TV came and said, "Hey, what were you thinking when Jasmine came up on your shoulder?" And she said, "I was thinking, bring it on." And then there was this beep. And we refer to that as the BIOB, bring it on, baby. I'm sure that's what she meant. But, it's an attitude, but it shows you. And a lot of my kids, they would be very friendly and smiling. One of the nicest, I'm thinking of one in particular, one of the nicest person I know, always smiling, just friendly and stuff. But in competition, she'd rip your heart out and feed it to your kids. No friends. So I don't want to say that's cockiness, but that's confidence. And like I said, we knew we were prepared. And that makes a big difference. Once you start getting that confidence and you know that you're ready much more so than the others, you don't have to take that strider down the thing because we're ready.